Good morning, everybody. I've been continually working on troubleshooting for uh, the OBS, trying to update drivers. Like I said, it's not boomer tech. It seems to be some interface and complicated stuff. Setting stuff in the OBS as well to kind of help. So, God willing, we won't have any audio problems. There's still some stuff I need to work on with the video. If I do video capture through Zoom, if we bring guests on or something like that, I still haven't worked that out. But I spent a couple hours working on just troubleshooting last night. So hopefully it won't go mute. And if it does, remember what's the banned word? Unmute. You will be banned from here. The word is refresh because it's not an unmute option. The only way to resolve this issue currently, if it does come up, is simply to shut down the OBS and restart it through a refresh. So that is the word. All right, what do we have? Christ is risen. Christ has risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and upon those in the tomb bestowing life. Christ has risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and upon those in the tomb bestowing life. Christ has risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and upon those in the tomb bestowing life. Christos a inviat in mort, cum morte pe morte calcunt, si ceror dimorminte viat sedaro indule. Christos a inviat, adevărat inviat. Refresh is the new word, yeah. Okay, let's go over some announcements and then we'll do some morning news. 22 people. Nice. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Piling in. Okay. If you haven't purchased your MontaNika tickets, you're going to want to do that. What is going on here? I'm trying to pull this up. I can't tell you when they're going to sell out, but I'm assuming... What did I do for my calculation? One second. So we have 46 days. Exactly. 45. 45 days. 45 days. 7 hours. 23 minutes. 50 seconds. 50. What? The way of the future. The way... Who can guess what movie that is? What the way of the future. All right, let me get my scientific calculator out. You got a split screen? Oh. Maybe I don't know. When I have free time, I can classes. Not Rain Man, but pretty close. Classes are going to be wrapping up soon, and you probably won't see me for a week and a half. I have 8 classes and 25 to 30. The Aviator, you got it. Nice. Wait, with the future. 46. All right. So what is that average? 30 students. 240 papers to grade. Yeah, pray for me. 240. I haven't graded that many papers since I was in grad school. When you're in grad school, the professors, you teach these things called modules. So they do like lectures in huge lecture halls. In Ireland, the UK system's a little bit different than the US. Maybe they do in some universities. But in Ireland and the UK, yeah, you have basically an undergrad. You go to you have these big lecture halls, and then that class of 150, 200 students is then broken out through the week into things called modules, in which the grad students teach their smaller kind of groups, and then the professors have the grad students grade all the papers. And I remember, so it was a way that you can get money for that you kind of help pay for grad school. And I just remember I had like about the same, like 200-300 papers to grade. So we're coming to the close of the semester, so I wish they could submit them early so I could get started, because there's a small window of when classes end to when grades are officially due. And so as a professor, you just don't do it. You lock yourself in a dungeon, and that's all you do is grade papers, because you got to get that submitted as soon as possible. All right. So let me go to tell you roughly how many tickets are left. We have 45 days. I know people always wait to the last minute. So I think we have to cap it at 180. I have to think about capacity and fire code. Minus the about 50 tickets. But I haven't factored in children under 12 are free. I haven't factored them in yet. Or if I've got a list of clergy. Remember, major clergy in the priesthood are for free, and their wives. So I've got a bunch listed, but if there's extras, so the ticket sales will be cut. Again, all the numbers are determined by fire code capacity, and not just fire code capacity, because I think fire code capacity is actually larger than what I could comfortably fit in there. So anyways, all that to be said, 45 days. Don't wait too long, because they will start selling out. VIP tickets are pretty much sold out. I think there might be 2 left, so people waited too long on that. And that's primarily because The Georgian Supra that's offered Friday night to VIP. Talking to John, and John Hears is going to lead that. He says, first of all, it doesn't work much over 20, 25 people, but we're having an intimate setting where we're having that. That's a smaller venue place that's not at the parish or parish hall. So that's why we had to limit the VIP tickets. But as I brought up, we added a new non-official event Tuesday. Father Russell will be. I will not be down there Tuesday. I will be here in Helena, finishing up getting all the supplies and things. So I'll be working nonstop Tuesday, and in fact, after liturgy at Wolf Creek, I've got to go back into Helena and pick up the remainder of the supplies and drive that down to Butte. But there's a lot of people that expressed interest and really enjoyed last year coming early. And so we added these additional events, non-official events, but people were really blessed by it. But if you look here, I know it was funny, the subdeacon and I were carpooling down to church last night, and I was telling him about that. I'm like, that's it. That's where I pointed. We were driving. I'm like, that thing looks huge. He's like, Father Russell's going to have people hike up there. It looks like Everest or something. And then I told the subdeacon, that I said, it's supposedly it's not that bad. That you can drive basically all the way up to the top, and that the hike is a beginner friendly hike, anywhere from a mile to a mile and a half. And then up top here, it'll look like this because in June's not hot. June's a great month to have the conference. So I don't know if it'll look this dry or not, but it probably won't look. You might see patches of snow. Definitely probably won't look like that right now, in June. Anyways, he said children and old people have hiked up there with Father Russell before. It's an easy hike, and then he'll do the liturgy. 10,000 feet. Just make sure you stay hydrated. Butte itself is... What's the elevation of Butte's pretty high. 5,500 or something like that. So if you've come from sea level, you need to kind of pay attention and adjust. Let's see, what's the elevation of Butte? I know Helena is not as high. What is the elevation of Butte, Montana? Yeah, exactly. Approximately 5,538 feet above sea level. What is Helena? What elevation? What? Yeah, just under 4,000. So that's 1,500 feet difference. So make sure that you don't get altitude sickness. You stay dehydrated. Stay hydrated, especially if you're drinking alcohol. Okay, I want to keep everybody safe. So we'll have that Tuesday if you want to come early. Wednesday, our liturgy at Wolf Creek. Wednesday evening's fun too because people are starting to come in and we're meeting up at various historical places and bars and restaurants and things in Butte. Butte's a really amazing historical town. And then people are continuing to arrive Thursday. Still no official event. The monastery tour is not an official event, but we'll meet at 11 a.m. in the church parking lot and do ride shares down to the monastery. I will give printouts. You have to use the printouts because if you try to use GPS or maps, you will not get there. You cannot find it. It'll send you on the other side of a mountain, and that happened a couple years ago. And people missed the monastery tour because they didn't follow directions. And then Thursday evening's the opening banquet dinner. Just talked with some of the cooks that are doing, so I'm really excited about what's in store for all of you. And then I'll open up after morning prayers, and we have John Hears, my godson Tony Baumkamp, and then you're free to go explore Butte. If you are a VIP ticket holder, we'll do the super dinner, meet back, and then the women parishioners are organizing their own dinner night, potluck kind of thing at one of the parishioners' house. And we meet back at the church hall for our well-beaten path professional bluegrass band. Then Saturday morning, His Eminence Metropolitan Jonah, Dr. Seraphim Foltz, Protodeacon will have lunch, Protodeacon Patrick, Dr. David Patrick, Harry will end and close the conference. And then there's free time and optional activities. I'm trying to think. I believe I forgot to mention too, one of our sponsors being the St. Paisios Brotherhood, and my godfather will be the representative. And we'll probably give a talk for those who are interested after Tony finishes. So if you're interested in signing up, if you know anything about that, it'll be good to stay for that. And then Vespers, closing banquet dinner, and live music from the Dirt Poor Robins. If you're interested and know somebody that'd like to sponsor, our newest sponsor is Logo Cinema, so I'll be putting their information up shortly. They will also be the videographers, but you can see here that we have St. Paisios, we have Hellenic Cross, Holy Cross College there, Laura Coffee, obviously, which will be supplying the coffee, so we're glad to see them. Anyways, get on it. Like I said, if I'm calculating the numbers correctly, at best we probably have 46 in 45 days. So, don't wait too long. Okay, that's that announcement. There was another announcement I wanted to... Father Ron will be here. Thank you, Father Ron. Don't forget about Father Ron. Follow his work and support him. He will be here. Well, you'll be here. I'll be sending my subdeacon to pick you up Friday night, and then I will pick you up from the airport, your hotel for liturgy Saturday morning. But the reason why I brought that up is that Father Ron will be here for MontaNika as well. So if you want to see Father Ron, make sure you get up here. Other news. As you know, that I provide the college university courses online. Through Patristic Faith. You can get those transferred to a college. I can tell you how to do that, in which those courses then can become accredited. They're a full 16-week. You don't have to do. You can take as long as you want. 16-week courses that I teach at the accredited college and universities that I've taught at, and people love them. You know, they're cheaper than any college that you could go to, and you can. What's great is you can actually get transferred them and get them accredited if you want. Most people don't. That's fine. Um, we finished 3 or 4 months ago. All of the courses had wrapped up. For those who were doing the week by week, there was some questions about whether we'll open up a new rounds and and in fact maybe even new classes this summer. One of which that I have not taught yet through the Patristic Faith courses, but I've taught here at Carroll. And one thing I wanted to do differently with this is to do what's a hybrid. All of the courses that have been offered are what called asynchronous courses. And that means there is no oh, I'm gonna sneeze, live lectures during the week. We typically do live office hours. Now, one of the reasons why is that people work and have different schedules, and people are taking these courses all over the country in different time zones. And so it's really, really difficult to find a day and time in which everybody can attend a live lecture. For people who have a working schedule, the online asynchronous courses where the lectures are pre-recorded work the best. You watch them whenever you want. However, we would like to experiment with a hybrid. A hybrid is, of course, there's no in-person. You're not going to fly to Helena, Montana. However, you would have live lectures each week. We'd choose a day. We will be doing that with a new course that I'll be offering, political philosophy. Great course. It's a new one. And the question is whether to start that this summer or not. I am teaching at a university in Maine a course this summer, so I've got to see, but I'll be traveling a lot too. So obviously everything's kind of booked up to MontaNika in June, and then after June I may be doing some traveling while I'm trying to teach the asynchronous course in Maine. So I'll have to see if we're going to launch a hybrid course, whether, because it's one thing to be able to do an asynchronous course remotely while you're traveling. It's a bit more difficult sometimes to have to find a computer every week to do lectures. What I want to see though is I'm going to start putting out some feelers as far as interest. And then certainly come August, the middle of August, end of August, I'll definitely be kicking off all the other courses. One of the new courses that I want to add to is, and Dave, I think this idea came from you and one of my other students, is this upcoming semester that starts at Carroll in August, philosophy and film. Really excited about this. I will be using multiple textbooks, but the main textbook, this is a class that the chair of philosophy has been teaching. He's going on sabbatical and wants me to cover this, and so he's using this textbook here. Now, what's good about this, not every movie in here, there's obviously some movies I'm like, no. But what I like about this textbook is it has this kind of discussion and analysis sections. It has, and then it has kind of homework assignments and questions, trivia, etc. So that's going to be one of the primary texts there. Then I'm going to accompany it with others. However, Dave had a great idea. Uh, yeah, we'll do Kubrick, David Lynch, some of those, in addition to some other good ones. But Dave and another student of mine had asked, and I thought this was a great idea. Would you offer that within the Patristic Faith courses? Yes. And what if we did that? We would start that in August to parallel, basically, so that you could go along with the Carroll College, my Carroll College students. So, in a little bit, I will put out kind of feelers for interest to see if people are interested in signing up for the Faith College University courses. Like I said, that can be transferred and be treated as accredited. So they're a great deal. Talk to anybody that's taken it. Nobody's regretted it. So, anyways, that's some kind of cool news. And do we have any other house cleaning or questions before we go into the morning news? Yeah. Um. Oh, who was I just talking to? Have you guys met Stephen DeLay? He's great. Really great philosopher. Um, but not on phenomenology, existentialism. But I think he published a book on Terrence Malick. Let me look. We're just writing each other. He will be coming to. I really want you guys to meet him. Amazing scholar, philosopher. Um, let's see. Yeah, he has a Malick volume. What is the name of it? He says he'd highly recommend the last chapter by Dan Lehman. Anyways, he'll be at MontaNika. I want you guys to meet him if he comes up. But yeah, I might pull from Jay's Esoteric Hollywood. Badlands is a great. Yeah, I don't know why people don't know. That might have been one of my first Terrence Malick movies that I saw. Jay, right? Text me right now. All right. So far, so good. Thank you, Dave. Super chat. I suggest you use the Streamlabs. I do know that Streamlabs only uses PayPal now. Is that correct? Something happened recently with. But Streamlabs doesn't take 30% of your super chats. The YouTube does. I know it makes it easier to use the YouTube, but just throwing that out there. Okay. Shall we begin the morning news? I'm just dreading doing these grading papers. I have like a method that can go by pretty fast. I have it read out loud at fast speed. It still takes forever though, like, but at least I'm not running my eyes. Yeah, I noticed. Pray for me. Some deacon's like, why don't you get glasses? I'm like, I've needed glasses since I was in grad school, and I'm retarded. I don't know what to say. I'm a procrastinator. I'm distracted. Like, yeah, it's like 15 years. I need glasses. It's just getting worse. But I noticed yesterday when I was going over some calendar issues, or looking at the calendar at church, and I'm like, I grabbed the subdeacon. I'm like, I need your eyes. My eyes everything's blurry, especially the last 3 days. I don't know why. Oh, no, Google Tax. Interesting. Yeah, good call, Dave. Anyway, so forgive me, my eyes are... But what did the gospel say yesterday? What did Christ say? Blessed are those that believe, but have not seen. Is that you guys? I believe you're out there. Made me feel good about myself. I'm like, oh, this is about me. Nice. That's a good one. All right, let's go. A lot of stuff to cover. But first, any questions real quick before we get into the news? Also, too, if you want to do a philosophical analysis, remember one of the hot topic is the papism and the papist position that Muslims and Christians worship the same God. Initially, last year, they were arguing that, but it doesn't mean it's acceptable worship, right? Or that it's correct. It's just they're worshiping the same God, but that requires that the term God, fixes on the same entity or the same thing, which obviously I and Orthodoxy argue no, it does not. And if it's not talking about the same thing, the referent isn't fixed with the same word, God, clearly you can't offer worship to. And there's philosophical arguments behind that, not to mention the church father, the church says about. But now it seems, with as I call it, the stalking horse analogy, the papacy with Pope Leo recently now is saying this, that it is acceptable. They've got this third largest mosque, right? And that this is acceptable worship to. So it just gets worse and worse for them. But we could go through later if you want the philosophy of language, because that's what I can bring to you. We could go through the fathers and stuff, and that's been addressed. But again, one of the issues, one of the things that I really love about philosophy and epistemology is that it pushes it back to kind of more fundamental questions that people haven't thought about. These kind of a meta-analysis and presuppositions and pre-commitments that condition the lower level stuff, by which we would call the text or evidence. And I find that's really good and fruitful, because what happens? Most people, they're not trained in philosophy or epistemology or philosophy of language. And so they start at the ground, the bottom level, and they just argue back and forth about the text. Well, that's not, well, and so what do you see? Whether it's the PSA Goblin tards, the Protestantards, whoever it may be, it's just an quote mining and going back and forth on the text ad nauseum, ad infinitum, right? It just never stops. Like, and what does it always come down to? That's not what the text means. The text means what I mean and not what you mean. And if I stack up enough texts, then I win. It's a numbers game, right? Is what, and it's just not fruitful. I mean, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. But if you go to, it's echoing. Well, at least it hasn't muted. The problem isn't the text, it's what it means. And how do you know that's what it means? Among other things. So, I find it interesting between the Orthodox and the Roman Catholics going on this issue. What do? It's just, well, your patriarch said this. So, here, let me put it this way. Everything seems to be evidence for the other person's position. Now there can be evidence against it. So what does everybody do online? Offers evidence that they won't accept. Well, what if we roll the question back to philosophical, epistemological kind of analysis? This came up the last week where I had a Muslim say that if you could prove from the Bible that Jesus is God, then I'll give up Islam. Now, I know that's not true. And what always happens? You go through the scripture and you show obvious text. Oh, that's not what it means. So what did I do? None of these people can ever respond to it. I go to do a philosophical analysis. I'm like, I'll actually prove to you why denying the Trinity is a defeater for knowledge. The Trinity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge. They can't even add, like... But by the way, it's interesting. Did you know? Were you paying attention to the gospel reading in John yesterday? Show of hands. How many people paid attention to the gospel reading? It was John, what was it, 20? Let's see. Of course, to use my eyes again that don't work. Yeah, 2019. Come on, get some interactions in the chat. How many people paid attention to the gospel reading yesterday? It was St. Thomas Sunday. I'll read something to you. '19. Yes, it's even with the glasses, my eyes are still blurry. Oh no, I was in 19. I'm like, that's not right. It's 2019. By the way, Christ's peace be to you 3 times. The end. The end of the gospel. Towards the end. John 20:28. And Thomas answered and said to him, Christ, my Lord and my God. Oh, like, that's just one. But I was just thinking, now, of course, I think they'll do some ad hoc rescue for their position. Oh, well, John's a later, this is a forgery or a later edition. Like, isn't that funny? Anything, that's why I said, everything, nothing can be evident against their position. Everything's evidence, so it's like, why are we going to script like back and forth? Father Ron, are you in the house? I have a question for you. Father Ron has been engaging with some of these Protestants on X recently. They quote a verse. They say, have you found, Father, in your experience, that pulling up verses explaining them does anything to them? Are they like, oh, wow, that's interesting. You're right, Father. I didn't know that. I read it incorrectly. I've been kind of watching what's happened. Like, God bless you because you have more patience than I do. I'm like, nothing. There's nothing for a heretic, you know. Now, I say that at the same time, knowing and believing the mystery of God's grace and conversion. Like, you know, God's revelation to the human heart, like, and how people respond to that. It's mysterious. I don't, like, sometimes it, you know, eventually, it's usually never in the actual conversation, but like maybe later, like logo spermatica, right? The seeds of the word kind of planted in. So I actually find it far more fruitful to go back to the philosophical presuppositions and do a philosophical analysis. And they never answer it. They're used to, how about I put it this way? You have to play ball in my court according to my arbitrary sports hole game that I just created up in my mind. And everybody does it. Everybody plays it. This is the fallacy of pretended neutrality. Well, the evidence is just the evidence. Texts are just texts, and we just start at the bottom and just, you know, I grant my opponent all his unjustified assumptions about this, and I guess we just argue back and forth. Whether it's politics, theology, whatever, it seems to be that everybody does this. That's why I don't engage with political, you know, did Trump say this, and is this happening, and is this fair, or something like that. Same thing, it's not fruitful. Like, to constantly lie about statistics. I just brought this up in, especially crime statistics. there's nothing you'll say that'll convince these people. They'll lie, they'll manipulate. Everything's evidence for their position, nothing's evidence against it. So it was interesting. We're doing debate reviews in our logic class at Carroll. And after class, one of the students stayed by, and we're talking about questioning one's pre-commitments and how they condition how somebody determines if something's evidence. This was brought up in Alex thinks. People always say evidence speaks for itself. So there's people that said that, and he was like laughing at that because being a lawyer, it's like, no, you don't just throw papers and pictures and be like, Your Honor, I don't even have to say anything to the court because the evidence speaks for itself, right? You have to create a narrative. You have to connect the dots, right? You have to have these preconditions by which it's like, this is justified how I'm interpreting the evidence. Evidence does not interpret itself, etc. And so to question one's starting points, which nobody ever seems to do, is a really good tactical move. And so I pulled up a clip from Jay Dyer doing this to Brian Shapiro. And they don't know how to respond. They're used to getting everything they want, namely, grant me all my unjustified assumptions, and we all just see it the same way, so let's just argue from the bottom up to whatever conclusion. So what does Jay say? Democracy's fake and gray. And he just was like, what? He's like, you don't believe it? He's like, voting? He was like, well, he's like, I don't think it means much. Like, this guy had no idea how to respond. He's used to people believing in the normie institution and all the vulgar, in the etymological sense of the word, assumptions of the common folk. And he couldn't answer it. And I was showing my student that I'm like, isn't this interesting? Then I called Jay and was telling him, I'm like, yeah, well, my student and I were having a conversation. And Jay was like, I learned that move. He's like, actually did it in the Brian Shapiro debate. Because he's like, I learned that from you when we were having a discussion about that. And I used exactly what he said. Okay, so this comes up. I might have brought this up in another stream. Recently, like a week ago when I took my wife out for a birthday dinner, we got there early, and I was gonna say, yeah, Father, they're gonna be like, there's no definite article, but it does have a definite article. By the way, if I can read, I can get my Greek New Testament. If I can see. This is actually a pretty cool, it's really old Bible, but it's both in Greek and Latin. I imagine the Latin's from St. Jerome's Vulgate. But you can look there. I think that's pretty cool. It's one of my favorite things that I have. So anyways, we were a bit early to dinner, so we went next door to the bar to have a cocktail, and some guy's dressed nice, and he's got some table over in, there was like a larger kind of room. And there was two ladies there, and it just looked like they're setting up like a political booth or something. They like they were involved in politics. And he just comes up and introduces himself. Like, I'm so-and-so, and we're doing a political fundraising event here. We're setting up. So I introduced myself, and I'm like, yeah, we're a professor at Carroll College. And he's like, oh, that's my district. He says, do you vote? And I'm like, I said, let me just put it this way. I'm like, all your political presuppositions, I deny every single one of them. Now, I could tell that from just the way that he, like the booth was set up, and actually particularly the women, I'm like, they've got to be Democrats. And the other thing too is I rarely see conservatives and Republicans in doing those kind of activism and stuff like that. And the way that they're politically involved is kind of different. They're kind of out of sight. I don't know if you get that kind of feeling too. So the one on the street getting you to sign up to vote and out there, they're almost always Democrats and liberals. Correct? Am I wrong about that? So I'm already kind of getting that vibe. And there was something else he said too that I'm like, ah, he's definitely. But whether it's a Republican or Democrat, like, well, I certainly think one is worse than the other, but and then I think there's people that are part of the same evil system that are in the Republican Party. So it's a complicated thing, but I don't even want to get into that. I want to get into they're both wrong. And right? In the sense that they have the normie starting political epistemic starting points. So I just told him, I'm like, I reject every single one of them. I don't believe in rights. In fact, I'm a Byzantine monarchist, and I probably lean fairly authoritarian because I'm sick and tired of a lot of stuff. So I don't know what we're really going to talk about. And he was just like, wow. He's like, I've never heard that before. I'm like, right. I'm like, so we're going to sit here and argue this policy. Like, I'm like, I reject everything. I said, all of your stuff is going to be grounded, right? Remember, we had a whole thing about rights language, in Enlightenment and classical liberalism kind of ideas that about the notion of the state and the person and philosophical stuff. I'm like, I don't agree with any of it. And he was like, well, that's one way to get out of a political discussion. Yeah, I'm like, why would I vote for your thing when off what you're even more so? I'm like, I told him, I'm like, I'm so far out from any view that you could, I don't know really what we're going to talk about. But it was interesting. He didn't know what to do with that. And so, why? Because, what did I say? There was some statistic that came out some years back that the 85%, I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it was a really high number, don't do any serious introspection. And that corresponded roughly to the same statistic of not having an inner monologue. As Socrates says, the question is, the examined life worth living? For most people, it's not. Like, they've never even thought about that question. They're just kind of Pavlovian behaviorist bots and machines. That's where the NPC comes from. They're just programmed to say the normie stuff that they were programmed by the establishment and manufactured consent of the machine to tell them to say. So, I'm not against talking politics. We're going to do a political philosophy. That's why I like teaching. It's different than politics. Political philosophy gets you to go to the history of, and we'll start from roughly in the Renaissance with Machiavelli. I'm not going to go through, we don't have time. In fact, I teach from the Dante Gemino from Machiavelli to Marx, so we go into the 20th century. Where do these ideas come from? They don't just pop up out of nowhere. Your political ideas are preconditioned from prior presuppositions, philosophically and historically. So the best way to understand any particular issue at the ground level or contemporary society, whether it be political or otherwise, is to what? Study the history of philosophy. So I don't mind talking politics, but it is kind of at a meta political and philosophical analysis. That's why I was talking politics. I'm saying I'm denying all your political first principles, like every single one of them. Just like, for example, I'll give you a funny story. I saw on X, And this really makes me upset. Okay, I know there's certain things that people say that are controversial, that whether it's rage bait or something, but even if it's not rage bait, that people would cause people to come in and argue. Then there's other tweets. They're just wholesome, nice tweets. We've all seen those. And you've always got to get some goober goblin to come in and just poo-poo on it. And I'm like, why? Totally wholesome, nice. Because people are evil. There's evil people out there. This happens. It says, Jesus is a socialist. Didn't know if you knew that. And people started making fun. Oh, and by the way, the account was an anarcho-syndicist, anarcho-communist. So the difference between anarcho-capitalists and anarcho-syndicalists is color. The color of their flags. Anarcho-capitalist has a yellow-black flag, which is the same flag that they do blackball at the beach. Did you ever notice that? It's a yellow flag with a black ball. That means no hardboards, no surfing. And that's what anarcho-capitalist means. It means no surfing. That's what the nap actually is. No, if you translate it in the original Libertarianese, it actually etymologically means no surfing. Look at our flag. It's blackball. Anarcho-syndicalism, anarcho-communism is red and black. And what's really interesting, I used to be an anarcho-capitalist. I'm sorry, I went to confession for it. But I shared an office in grad school with an anarcho-syndicist. And he's like, "You're so close, brother." I'm like, but so far away. And we had these kind of interesting conversations in the office. I didn't say we're close. He did. He was like, "We're so close, but you're wrong. Totally wrong." I'm like, well, how are we so close on the position of... Because there's a word anarcho in there. Anyways, I've long since abandoned libertarianism and anarcho-libertarianism. But this person on Twitter I could see had a... Yeah, Charlie don't surf. Now, good one, Dave. I could tell what they were. And Jesus is social. Of course somebody would say that. Why? Because that supports their position, you see. Everything's evidence for their position. So people started making fun of this girl. Jesus hates rich people. And the girl doubled down. She's like, yeah. Jesus, it says in the Bible that if you don't redistribute wealth, Jesus sends you to hell. I'm like, I didn't read that gospel. It's the lost gospel according to the apostle and evangelist Marx. With an X. You didn't know about this? That Jesus made a time machine. And what's the stupid one that, like, there's some theory that the lost years of Jesus went and he studied with the Buddha or something like that. And then, you've heard this, right? Well, we could go along the same silly lines and be like, yeah, you didn't hear about... In the lost years, he had actually found a quantum time machine and traveled in the future and studied under Karl Marx and ordained him as the apostle and evangelist. But that was a lost gospel. And then he took that gospel from Karl Marx, back into the first century, and but it was lost. Those nasty Christians hid that gospel, and then it took 2,000 years for an anarcho-syndicist to actually dig up this lost Gnostic gospel according to the apostle and evangelist Karl Marx, and but it was in a different language. It was because Karl Marx knew that this had to be hidden in an esoteric language, and then you'd have to have the special magic glasses the Marx glasses. Well, let's come up with a name. The Engels glasses. The Engels glasses, the Das Kapital glasses, that you actually have to translate the. Anyways, we all know now. Thank God for technology and science. We can have a woman teach us about that Jesus was in fact a socialist. Now, notice the word concept, like every heretic has a problem with words. And word manipulation, right? So they'll go back and for those, as I had brought up with Eric Vogelin, he says the Gnostic, because they're concerned with not the divine created order, but with power and manipulation and reconstructing the divine order of nature in their image, right? So destroying it, and then one of the things that they do is this wordplay game, right? So, well, society. That's my what's the actor? Society. Adam. I'll let you fill it in. Social, society, right? Commune, communal, communism, right? Well, one of the ways they can bounce between these words and do wordplay back and forth is that a lot of things. Yeah, Adam Sandler, you got it. Good job, Dave. Society. Is that things, not just words, have commonalities. This is what I call the it's almost similar to a genetic fallacy. Like, just because something comes from something doesn't mean that whatever the truth or falsehood of the previous thing would be attributed to the latter thing. But just because there's similarities between something does not mean that it's the same thing. This is one of the problems with the Roman Catholics are having in terms of philosophy of language and semantics. There's nothing in saying that because this thing or name shares 3 or 4 similar properties with this, that therefore the two names or two ideas using the same name refer to the same thing. Yes, Bitcoin is is much more ethical. There's your short answer. Anyways, sidetracked me. Like the evolution fallacy too. Well, these species have similar features, therefore they must have a common origin. They play on that kind of fallacy, the fallacy of similarity or commonality. Well, there's something common with communal and commune, communist, social, society, socialism. And what a fallacy is, it's not simply just an error of reasoning. It's an illusion, right? It's logical word wizardry, as I call it, that you present a bad argument or something that doesn't fall as if it does. And you got to do that through kind of smoke and mirrors and kind of present an illusion. Sleight of hands, wordplay, and stuff like that. And so really what the wordplay is creating kind of smoke and mirror, like look over like the word here, and you're a communist. Okay, Jesus was a socialist, right? So it says in scripture they held all things in common. Okay. Christ tells the rich man, the rich young ruler, to sell his stuff. And then they just think that would be a fallacy of hasty generalization. That from one example of Christ telling somebody that must universally apply to all. It's also fallacy of contextualism. It was the context. Christ wasn't saying accumulating great wealth is evil. He was like, that's your idol. Right? The only thing that, one of the things that Christ is concerned with is captivity. It doesn't have to be money. If you're held captive by something, Christ would have, and if it wasn't money, Christ would have said, give it up, lay it aside, so that you may be free. Christ came to free the captives. And for the rich young ruler, his captivity and idol was money. That was the one thing. So what do they do? Hasty general. Well, that means for every thing. Okay. But let's go back to Scripture says they held all things in common. A confusion here is, first of all, it's voluntary. And Christ was not making, nor the apostles, that in the Purium, in politics, that an economic system should be redistributionism, right? That's definitely not the case. But suppose it were. I was thinking about this kind of reductio for leftoids, especially a woman. Suppose I say I'm going to grant you your argument for the sake of the argument. By the way, all of those communities that held things, you know what eventually those became? They're called monastics, monasteries. But suppose I get to be like, are you telling me you do know that those societies, women had no position. It was totally anti-feminism. Women could not teach, right? They held no positions of authority other than maybe over other women and kind of duties. It was not egalitarian. So even though the things were shared, it was hierarchical, right? All people were not equal. It was extremely patriarchal. And guess what? No other religions were allowed. Now, if you're telling me that Jesus was advocating that type of society, and in terms of the polis in the nation, that we could make sure that women don't vote or hold any position, managerial positions, that extremely patriarchal, hierarchical, and no other religions are allowed in my nation and country, I actually might go for that. How about that? How do you like that reductio? No, that's not what I mean. Oh, because Marxism and socialism, international socialism, has totally different... Notice international socialism. What if I said, you mean national socialism? Leftoids lose their mind. But like, oh, socialism. Well, socialism is two socialism. You mean national socialism or international? International socialism is Marxist, communist in the various kind of forms. That's what you want. Right? You want to blur all distinctions and mix. You want to destroy nation states. In order for that to work, what typically has held a nation together distinctly from a religion, right? So that's why, well, you can't have religion. Also, all of this, there was another person that advocated for redistribution of wealth, by the way, in socialism. His name was Judas. Doesn't he say to Christ? So notice with these people, it's not healing and salvation that's the most important thing. It's material stuff. That is literally their first principle, their starting point. Why? Because by the time you get to Karl Marx, coming out of Hegel, and this is why I say you have to locate these things historically. They've abandoned real essences. That there's immaterial forms and essences and natures, okay? There certainly isn't, by the time you get to Marx, a notion, not only, what do you have? You have a modern kind of world of matter and motion, force, right, and matter. Thank you, Descartes. Well, if there are no transcendentals, right, there's nothing also that's transcendent. And even within the world immanent, there are no immaterial objective forms or universals. Then what do you have? Power, libido dominante. That's why, for the presuppositions, for the leftoid, going back to these issues, going back to Marx, is this dialectical materialism that comes out of Hegel, that it is to reconstruct the world order, which is the God-given order, in your own image through the manipulation and control of economic forces, i.e. redistribution of wealth. Why? Why would you do that? In terms of the dialectic that you're going to interpret in terms of oppressor and oppressed, proletariat and bourgeoisie. So they don't know that it's like, in order to do that, then you've got to critique, right, which is where critical theory will come in, but you'll have to destroy any notions of, you can't have a distinct nation and people group that's committed to a religion, right? You got to mix it all up in a Caligarian smoothie blender. Why? Because multiculturalism requires that everybody compromise, right, and give up on their most core values. Why? For the state. Well, what is the state? It's this kind of German idealism, right? This idea of like the abstract notion and this kind of Hegelian what's the word? Progressivism, right? That you're progressing to this almost kind of apotheosis state, right? This emetizing the eschaton, this Marxian kind of utopia. That's all it is. That's so why redistribute wealth? In fact, I've argued too, as a way to question presuppositions. I like, and I say this is at the bottom of the economic system. I don't want redistribution of wealth. I actually like both in terms of political hierarchy, ecclesial in nature. I like economic hierarchy. Like, I think that overall does well, just not only economically, but for a person's like soul. And what does Christ say to Judas when he wants redistribution? Let's give it to the poor. The poor you will have with me always. So Christ is basically, actually, this person doesn't even pay attention to this, condemning redistribution of wealth. Like, you can't, again, it's this attempt that you see in all these kinds of movements of emetizing the eschaton, creating a Tower of Babel, trying to acquire theosis and the parousia on man's terms. And Christ is like, it's not going to happen. You're not going to eliminate the poor. And it's not good to eliminate poverty. There would be I think there would be a terrible system. Like, we wouldn't be in a lot worse state if we eliminated poverty. I think, and modernity's like this too. Think about in medicine. Medicine's goal is to eliminate all suffering. I'm like, that's awful. Nobody's going to get to heaven. If you eliminated all suffering, now it doesn't mean you try to produce suffering or try to produce poverty, but Christ is telling you, do not eliminate it. It's part of the plan. Even if it's, what men intend for evil, God intends for good, you don't get to eliminate it through political theories and economic models and the manipulation of economic forces. If you eliminate poverty, more people would go to hell. How about that? Let me put it that way. If you, in modern science and medicine, eliminated all suffering, nobody would get to heaven. Nobody gets a resurrection without a cross. So you see this kind of modern mindset. It's actually evil. I'm like, I don't want it. I deny it. I think it's actually good for us. Now, each individual, right? The people who are on the higher up economically, I'm like, what they do and how they treat their money and stuff, that's like, they may, have that as an idol. That's between them and God. Like, but in terms of the whole and like, absolutely not. So here's another example. I'm like, I deny all your. You can't just use the word social. Like, why? Okay, I'll grant you it. I want in my nation every other religion kicked out of my number one. I want all women removed from positions of managerial authority. I want extremely patriarchal, right? I want symphonia, right? And then within a monarchical system, if you want to redistribute, then we can talk. How about that? No, that's not. But even in a monarchical, like, symphonia system like that, I don't think it would be good to redistribute well. All right. So, we've been going over a lot, huh? All of this is to say, maybe this stream's about like how to philosophically question our presuppositions. Part of that is having a good understanding of the history of philosophy. I just wrote this in the Discord too. Somebody asked about Montaigne. People ask in the Discord all the time, what about this philosopher, this philosopher? Let me just put this out and put this here. Don't read any of them unless you do this the methodology. You only read philosophers in their historical context, starting with the pre-Socratics, moving from Plato to Aristotle to the early antiquity, mid and late into the medieval ages, right? So you have Aquinas, and then the nominalists like Occam. Then you can go into modernity to Descartes, and then Montaigne's roughly around that time as well. Then into the Enlightenment thinkers, and then 20th and 21st century philosophy, both splitting into the analytic and continental. That's what I would say. Do never start with just picking up somebody like Montaigne or Descartes or Nietzsche or, God forbid, like modern contemporary analytic philosophy. It's like, you're not going to, you're going to get confused. You're going to get the wrong interpretations. Why? Because you don't understand the historical first principles and preconditions. It's a big, long conversation, philosophy. You can't just jump in the middle of a conversation and be like, ha, funny joke. It's like, it's not funny. Like, they were talking about his mom was dying. It's like, well, you were out of the whole context of. So we're seeing how this is true even with
whether it's the issues going to come up with the philosophy of language here or political conversations too. That the history of philosophy in this chronological approach is really, really important. All right, moving on. Ooh, was that a big donation? Super chat? Christos Anesti, Alios Anesti. Dale, this $100. Thank you so much. God bless you. That's really gonna help. As we're getting closer to the conference, I'm like thinking about, first of all, the plane tickets. Travel has been really expensive this year, especially given the war in Vietnam. No, not Iran, Vietnam. And affecting airlines and stuff like that. So, just a lot of expenses this year. I try to make the conference better every year. Anyway, so that really helps. Thank you. Like, it takes some stress off so I really do appreciate that. God bless you, Dale, the 7. Okay, where were we? Any questions so far? Good. I just had a sit down with one of the cooks. We did a meal plan yesterday at church. All the helpers were full on helpers, so all the people serving and helping with the conference, all of that set up. I know Neil's coming. But I need to talk to him, kind of go over. I'd like to put Neil as the MC. So I need to contact him. Had a wonderful conversation with Dr. David Patrick Harry 2 days ago. And again, we'd love to get some more. So we're getting some big sponsors, but if you know somebody that doesn't have to be Orthodox business, but that owns a business or knows somebody that does and would like to sponsor, I heard a couple of years ago, I was told that this is the 3rd largest Orthodox conference in the nation. It's getting bigger, so maybe we're up. I have an article that was published a couple of years ago, top 10 Orthodox conferences in the world. So it's a big deal. Like, if you know a business owner or you own a business yourself, whether it's Orthodox or not, you certainly would want to invest a little bit of money in being a sponsor and help us because it'd be mutually beneficial. So just putting that out there. Sponsorship package URL and why did I blank on the name? The QR code for sponsorship is on the website there. Also, yeah, I was talking to everybody does clips for Jay and other people. Why does everybody dislike me so much that nobody ever does clips for me? Yeah, the synod or diocese, those are not conferences. I wouldn't consider those conferences. Well, the funny thing, talking about presuppositions and pre-commitments. Yeah, Dave did send. Those are awesome. Thank you, Dave. Although they're a bit salty clips. Not because of Dave, because of me. Because sometimes I get salty with sometimes I crack the whip on people. I cannot ask for people to donate to any. Um, there's some legal issues with that. I suggest that all donations come through the OCF or one of the official channels. So I don't know you personally. I can't. So I apologize, but there's legal issues, especially because Patristic Faith is a company. God forbid anything happened. I don't want to be legally reliable, or the people, the board, or anything like that. So I do not promote any fundraising. Go through official channels. I think OCF is one of them. There's other ones too, but thank you. Okay. Is it a bot? Yeah. And look at the... Is it Mole? It's Mole. It's the Mole Monastery bot. That's hilarious. So what's funny is that, so remember when the stuff started with the Roman Catholics about the last Pope blessing same-sex marriage couple? And it was like, oh, it's not blessing the same. So what's interesting is I started to notice with all of this stuff, or whether it's Pachimama, or whether it's the comments that when the Pope makes about Muslims or something like that, they're taken out of the entire context. So we're talking about contextualism, right? Well, that was one of the themes for... Well, let's just look at a text or the statement apart from any of the context, because what? Evidence and text speak for itself. That's the erroneous assumption. But what's so crazy is I know the philosophy and ideology behind the papacy. Quit gaslighting me. That's not what it means. So what they have to do, again, is this semantical sorcery and word wizardry, where they put in a bunch of confusing smoke and mirrors. Don't look at it, just look at this statement and watch how I could interpret in a different way if I ignore all the other stuff. Isn't that kind of what's going on? It's like, we all know what the last couple popes have believed about these issues. Quit gaslighting me. We know, and I know, the philosophy behind why he's saying these perennialist things. It's not perennialist, it's actually... And they'll bring a bunch of people in to, like, especially philosophers, right? Well, listen to my big words. Watch me confuse you through this. It's all a red herring and distraction. But we know. We know, given the conclusions of natural theology, that it ends in perennialism. And that these are just logically... the papacy's statements about this, they're just being logically and historically consistent with the prior presuppositions. So what do? Don't look at the presupposition. Just look at this quote, or how I can take one quote and reinterpret it to mean whatever I want. So that's why they typically steer away from answering the philosophical arguments that I give, because that just cuts through. It's like, who cares, right? I'm not even going to answer any of that stuff. How do I know they're not referring to the same God? We did a whole thing on Origen's, why Origen is a heretic. Like, we did a whole, because he taught heresy. And because despite, I've seen Origenists being like, well, he was a humble man, and go look at the history, like, I was always willing to submit his work, if it was errors, to the authority of the church. He wasn't. There's plenty of evidence that, so yes, he was condemned posthumously because of the type of person he was. And he cut his PP off. How about that? He's a heretic because he cut his PP off. And then it led to bad theology. And also, suppose he wasn't a heretic. It doesn't matter what anybody in the church says. Iconoclasm. Who cares? Like, so you'd actually have to take the presupposition that nobody in the church could ever be wrong or say a wrong statement. It's stupid, right? It's like, but he is a heretic. So it's even worse. He's not a church father. And even if he were, doesn't mean anything. Well, I found the church father said that you shouldn't, and fill in the blank. Who cares? Like, I don't really, none of us that's not how Orthodoxy works. We're not Protestants, nor we're Roman Catholics. All right, this is getting me off track. So they ignore the philosophical arguments. Guess what? Either Paul's a Protestant. This is what they never understand Orthodox ecclesiology. You don't build your case. Well, I found people in the history of church that say this thing. So what justifies, this is what's so stupid about the other Paul and Protestants in general. What justifies that you get to pick? People said all kinds of stuff in the church, even saints, right, to contradict. All it shows at best is there are people in the church that might have been influential that have believed certain stuff. Well, how is that justification for your position? That's exactly like saying, I'll take some heretical position, then I'll go to a thesis. Why? This is how you know that it's thoroughly modern. This way, how far Protestantism is removed from the church, just even historically, let alone theologically, philosophically. I create my own, in the university, I create my own heretical thesis, right? Then what do? How do I prove my heresy, whether in philosophy or any other discipline? I just go to a bunch of people in history that wrote books, and I'm like, well, this guy says that. Well, why is that right? So again, why is being able to quote somebody in history justification for your position? So it's not that he doesn't count. I would move it to a deeper question. Why is quoting somebody in history a justification for your position? All it shows, literally all it proves, is somebody in the church at one point in time believed this thing. Congratulations. That is not justification that the church believed it, let alone you ought to believe it. Like Protestant brain rot. This is what happens to your brain on Protestantism. It's a total that's what you do in the university. I just arbitrarily pick whatever author in history, and but that doesn't answer the question, why ought I believe that? Well, because it's in history. Because it's in a book. So what do Protestants do? Literally the opposite of the Christian ethos and mindset. The secular, modern, academic mindset. just quoted somebody. Therefore, my position's right. Why that quote over another? Why that person over? This is why they can't answer. If you have two people in church history, they're saying opposite things, how do you know and how do you resolve which one you ought to believe? Let alone make the claim that this is what the church believed. These people should have, like the society should have thinking license. You have to actually go like the driver's test. And these people's licenses to think and speak should be taken away. Yeah, the church is kataholos. It's universal, right? Well, I found one thing. So notice it's also a hasty generalization. I found one thing, therefore all. I mean, how many fallacies can we name with... This other Paul guy's having a meltdown too, right? Because he's prideful. Notice that... Why do people obsess about this? Because they're insecure, narcissists, and narcissism comes out of the insecurity, probably. That it's like, I need attention and I have to, like, I can't be wrong about this, because they know they're wrong. I do believe that in their heart. They know they're off. Yeah, the papists do the same thing. I think the papacy is a modern, obviously, the way they think about that. It's not old Rome. It's not the way the West and Latins used to think about the world and theology and reading and knowing stuff. So, notice every time I bring up these the philosophical arguments, though, I'm like, I'll actually prove to you why Muslims and Christians can't be... They can't answer. These people won't... They sent their best, and it was difficult arguing with them because they knew philosophy of language, but in the end, they failed too. Yeah, I seriously don't get the... It just doesn't make sense. First of all, it's not only it doesn't matter. We don't have any principle in orthodoxy that truth is determined by one, two, or a handful of people in history of the church. I don't know who told you that. Who told you were naked? Okay, so why would it falsify it? Our epistemic principle is kataholos. The whole. Like, how hard is that to get into your heads? Like, why are you so retarded that you can... Like, that's an easy... I could get the Lord of the Rings... Lord of the Flies children out here that don't seem to have any parents. They run around all day without any parental supervision out here. And guarantee I could get them to explain that. So what's the matter with these people? Why are they so dumb? Or maybe they're not, which is worse. It'd be better if you were dumb and retarded. What it is heresy. Persistently obstinate in error due to pride. Incorrigibleness. And the inability, it's a moral failure. It's not an intellectual. Now, I think moral failures can cause brain damage and make you mentally retarded. I think that's possible, but you're exhibiting mental retardation. Like, you can't even do the stuff that the children out here would grasp. Log off. Get out of the way. All right. Should we go through... What should we do next? Should I save this for another stream where I go through the arguments again, the philosophy of language? And philosophical arguments? and we move on to a different topic and save that for later? Or do it now? What do you want to do? Might just be good for a separate stream. Hello? One second, I'm writing somebody at 6:30. We do catechesis. At Carroll College. And is it O'Connell? Just forgot my own buildings. Wow, I gotta look this up. It's because somebody wrote me. I have a meeting with Wednesday at O'Connell. Carroll College map. And I'm getting the buildings mixed up now. I do classes in... Oh no, it's not O'Connell. It's, I can't believe... St. Charles. St. Charles building. Isn't that funny how, like, when you would know a word or name, but then somebody else says another name and it blocks your retrieval of getting that name. Like, now it's stuck. Every time you were trying to go out, you see the other name pop up. I've had that happen. Multiple times. All right. So, is that the decision? Because the thing is, too... what saints are commemorated today? Nikolai of Zicha. Yes, it's a Serbian saint. Venerable George, St. George of Mitterlin is another one. There's a lot more. I say we hold off on that. I want to do another special thing. What I'll do is go back through the Garby article arguments and some of the arguments I formed with Garby and from Garby to Garby. And then the Dr. Joshua Sijawade's argument from monarchical Trinitarianism. Somebody's writing me, wants to come into the church. Sorry. All right, let's move. Let's go. Hey, did you notice? Maybe I actually did fix my audio issues, the muting. Maybe, just maybe. We finally got it done. Yeah, St. Nikolai Zika is in Zicha. I never pronounce it. Zika or Zicha? I'm not Serbian. I serve in a Serbian church, and I'm ashamed of myself. I don't know how to speak Serbian or pronounce things very well. Do you like my crazy eyes? What if I had to do every stream like this? All right. So we'll hold off on that just because I have a lot of work to do today. And we've been going for... I mean, it's just stupid that we have... You know what? Blessed are you. You guys are great. The 30 disciples in the rest of you... I'm going to have some words for you. 30 people. Am I that boring? People hate philosophy and theological analysis. Like, somebody said, quality, not quantity. Ain't that the truth? You guys are great. The rest of you are retarded. I mean, I'm looking at the street like these numbers of people like... Go waste your time. You can get a philosophical education for free right now. Are you not entertained? Oh, then you want entertainment. That's right. Okay. I don't even think anybody's live right now, like doing anything. There's no excuse for this. Oh God, yeah, like debating because they're caca. That's why. Why don't I debate? Because they're evil. Why don't you eat caca and pick it up? Are you scared? Why do you keep running from eating caca? Because it's caca. That's why. Why are you running from caca? Why don't... If you get on screen right now and take a deuce from the toilet and eat it like a Hershey bar, then I'll do it. I want to see it that you're on live. If not, you're actually scared. Why do you keep running from eating poo-poo out of the toilet? Now, it can't be it needs to be a fresh steamer. Right? If you don't do that, you're scared. Why do you keep running from eating dookies? You're scared, aren't you? Like, you do that and I'll debate. You get a live... It's gross, right? That's why. Because your people are demonic and gross. And it's just like the PSA chart. Why do you... It's like, because we refuted it. You're not the standard, the epistemic standard of whether we refute it or not. So why would I waste my time? Who's the real idiot? Me, the wall that's never going to accept an actual refutation argument, or me, because I keep arguing with a wall? That's why. I'd actually be the stupid, retarded one. It's just like the stupid Muslim. You guys all have the same demonic mindset. I can't stand you guys. Now, I pray for your repentance. And nothing better than an exorcism and repentance when a prodigal son returns. I would be grateful for that. So I don't hate you personally. I don't like it when you have caca on yourself and you don't take a bath. How about that? But the Muslim was the same way. If you just show... Do you really think this Gabriel Goon... If we did just one... If I just saw one more refutation... Yeah, no, that's over now. You should... These are your fighting words, man. Also, you can't be a real person. I was talking to the subdeacon about this. Look how retarded... And you're not a fool for Christ. You're just... Take that part out. You're just a fool. Who told you it was a good idea? If you actually want one of us to debate, you know what you don't do? Come on to an insult and make me angry. You could just picture Gabriel at a job interview. He wants a job, so what does he do? Well, after taking a steamer on the boss's desk, dropping a deuce on, he further insults the boss. That's how Gabriel, the fool, does things. So obviously that's how he's going to get one of us to debate. What are you going to do about it, Gabriel? Quit dropping steamers on my yacht. Get off my lawn. Deuce. So you just must be socially retarded. I love it. Why are you running from my resume I just dropped on your desk? Here's my resume. Burp. But to what end? Like, I had a couple of years ago, this was funny, somebody wrote me in Discord, 15-year-old, your arguments are SHIT, come debate me. And I'm like, weird. Can you imagine, like, applying for a job? Your employees and the way you run your business is crap. Come hire me. So I was just like, well, who are you? Like, can you know, when you want to do a debate or something, you might mention who you are. Here's my channel. Here's my credentials. I've got a degree in this. Why should I waste my time? Is basically, that's what an employer, anybody that you're socially, you know, in the workplace or publicly or debates, you know, academically, etc., working with, why should I take my time off to, you convince me? And the person laughed and was like, ha ha ha, debate. I'm like, so here's the standard now. I'm supposed to debate everybody that insults me. Every child in their mom's autistic child in their mom's basement. That challenges me. And if you don't, you're scared. That's what little children say. You're scared to eat the caca. I'm like, do I look scared? Anybody knows me, have you ever seen me in fear? Maybe with spiders. Like, I don't like spiders. But do I look like a scared person to you that backs down from a fight? How about you come up here and we talk face to face? Why don't we take a ride? Let's see who's actually scared. Why don't you come and meet people from Montana? See how they deal with this faggotry. Name call it. Let's actually see who's scared here. Is this not the Saul Alinsky tactics? Accuse your opponent of the thing that... Why don't you come up here? Pop your mouth off in Montana and see what parishioners and people in Montana, how they... Why are you scared? Why are you running? Come to MontaNika. We'll have a great face-to-face chat. In person. You're not anonymous. You can see who I am. You can see... How can you tell if I'm not, scared or not if we don't see each other face-to-face? Once you come up here... There's nobody that's excluded from the MontaNika Conference. Somebody wrote me, do I have to be Orthodox? You have to be Orthodox. It's a great experience. Why don't you come up here and meet me and all of us? But I might actually have to teach you classes and just, if you want, what do you want? If you want something, I can give you some kind of basic fundamental tips and kind of just social etiquette. Maybe even how to write emails or letters to help you get what you want. It's not even a question about you're right or wrong, but typical Muslim, yeah. So we get the same thing, the Muslims or the PSA, like, what do? They want to debate. Do you really want to debate? Me to debate somebody? Again, then learn some basic etiquette in your rhetoric on how to... But like I said, who's the idiot? Like, I mean, these PSA people were saying, why don't you just deal with the arguments? We have dealt with the arguments. Oh, it didn't refute. Okay, so then it goes back to the thing. You're the normative authority for judging if the argument worked or not, if somebody did. Like, you're never... If I don't think I'm ever going to convince somebody... Nothing, if there's no argument, or why? Because you're in a cult. That's what every cult. Why am I scared? Because I don't want to waste my time dealing with that. Like, I would be the idiot. Who's the fool? Would be me, right? If I'm trying to convince a fool who's incorrigible and never, I'm actually the fool. Can you not understand that? There are some good life lessons that we all get. But I'll do it. I have a couple things. You either come up here face to face and show me, actually, we'll find out exactly who's scared. Or you eat a live Hershey turd on the camera, right? And if you don't, you're scared. Those are my conditions. You do that, I will reverse everything I said, and I will debate one of your goblin leaders. If not, you're scared, and I don't want anything to do with you. All right, moving on. Noticing the Diamond Brothers cult members do the same thing. You're scared Jay won't debate. How many people do we have to debate and refute? Like, that's why I always ask the papists, what would it take for you to change it? There's nothing's going to change these people's positions, shy of God working on their heart. I ain't going to be able to do it. That's beyond me. That's a divine act right there, boys. Who's this guy? Saint Chad. He's got to be a papist, right? Oh, no, he's not. He's got to be a Protestant. Martial art. What if he is this guy? What's, He's this guy. He's your karate instructor telling you Pelhamism is Hinduism. Somebody walk me through this argument. Let's try to understand for like how possibly why is they saying that? Oh, because the energies are God. Let me see if I can steel man their argument. This is gonna be hard. If God has a mode of existence apart from his essence, i.e., his energies, those are uncreated in God themselves, then they are multiple. If they're multiple, then they're multiple gods. Is that right? I'm trying to help me out here. You know, I told my wife this morning. This is actually really good analysis. Do you know I've never lost a debate? Since I don't know. I probably lost debates when I was in Thomas Aquinas College. After that, so when did I graduate? 2003. I cannot remember a single debate I've lost, except there's only one person. My wife. She won a debate this morning, right, sweetheart? Can't remember. And you know what she said? Spot on. Because I know you. I'm like, yeah, that's bingo. To know somebody, the more you know somebody, like, she knows how I think, like, she knows my errors. Well, I was young. I lost to like they were smart. They were my professors, and we had some smart people in. And I can't even remember what. I'm just saying there might have been a time. And I don't know if it was a formal debate, but I've been schooled before. How about that? By professors, and I've been wrong. But yeah, I thought that was a good point that my wife brought up. She wins. Not every time, but when she does, she's the one that does. And the reason why she does is because, as she said, she knows me. She knows how I think, and she knows my errors. Oh, that's interesting, Vigo. Created grace is more Hindu. Part of this, one of the errors too, is let's put it this way. The reason why it's not polytheism is the same reason why Trinitarian isn't, right? The essence of God does not exist independent of the Father. The inhypostatization, the person of the Father. And then when that's given fully to the inhypostatization of the Son and the Holy Spirit. doesn't make three different gods. Okay? They don't even have monarchical Trinitarianism, so I'd actually say the Roman Catholic position would lead more to three gods. Number two, nobody in Orthodoxy says the energies or even anything like substance, right, insofar as they are autotheos or have an independent existence apart from the essence of God, let alone the hypostasis, right? So that's what you would actually have to argue, right? They exist, right, and are dependent on the virtue of, first of all, the essence of God, which is one, and that on the persons, right? Does that make sense? Otherwise, you're just like, this is a Muslim argument. Then you would fall into the same problem. Then you would have three gods. Pretty easily answered, right? These are not serious people. I don't think they care. Saint Chad. Let's see. Somebody made another Kaka argument too. In non-dualism, Hinduism, or Advaita Vedanta, matter itself is God. That includes, I'm not going to say the bad word, Kaka. Since when do the energies become matter? Yeah, energies are not matter. So, wow, man, Italy's getting based. What's going on in Italy? Mott and Bailey from Thomism does not allow for uncreated grace, correct. First of all, Jim Bob streams every day. I'm mad at you, Jim Bob. You're taking away my people, which mean you people. I don't know. Maybe Jim Bob does stuff later in the. That's with me too. Is that if I do have time, it might be this time in the morning. But shouldn't you actually? Here's my argument to you. Shouldn't you actually choose to watch the person that needs more help, who's more of a rare commodity that doesn't stream every single day? Don't you think that's the logical conclusion? Wouldn't the rational enlightened man, actually, the one who is not impassioned, think that, I have two friends, one that I see every day, who's doing great, and another one who needs some help, and I rarely see him, and that's my argument. Unless I'm the most boring person and everything I say is dumb. What do you think? Maybe I am. Been known to have some self-awareness. Maybe I'm just a boring academic using big words all the time. Those stupid big words. I'm too nerdy sometimes, but I think sometimes I like to think I'm funny too. Like I can play guitar like Jim Bob. By the way, this is no disrespect to Jim Bob. We're friends, and friends can roast each other. You see. That's the other thing too. That's Jim Bob's sole income, probably. You're right. Thank God I've been blessed to be a professor. Exegetus. That's a great question. Did all the technical difficulties get resolved? It's hard to say. We haven't had any uh, tech gremlin demon goblins attack. Like I've just been having to work through AI, like basically doing asking AI and troubleshooting, just kind of going down the list and hoping, each thing that I do, the next thing might actually work. But there's no way to tell it works. Isn't that kind of a weird, like proving a negative? There's no way to know that it works. You only know when it doesn't work. So when it fails not to work, that doesn't mean it's working. You like that? Oh, sorry. Thanks for letting me. Michael, tips $10. Thank you so much, Michael. We much appreciate that. Father Stephen Young has convinced me, pistis, right? Faithful. Yeah, is best understood as faithfulness, which seems to make the Western use of faith fake and gray, huh? Would you mind giving some language or thoughts to this? That's a good. Um, well, I've written about this in some of my earlier articles, like I think it's called The Apophatic Ascent to the Divine. You could look that up on. It's a really early article on academia, my academia.edu. Words can have multiple meanings, and oftentimes faith. Oh, I'm gonna pause. I have an important phone call. Okay, I was joking with Father Andrew there. It's Father Andrew. I really want to talk to him, so forgive me. Um, but yeah, it's an action. It's an ontological like kind of change. But good stream. Forgive me. I really been trying to get a hold of Father and speak with him for a while. So until next time, and if I can get all my work done, maybe even something tonight. But thank you all for the wonderful super chats, and may the Lord bless you and continue to bless you. And till next time, God bless.